She thought he was just another rich kid, so she slapped him. But within minutes, a single phone call turned her world upside down, and by the time the plane landed, her entire crew was fired. What happens when a stewardess crosses the line, and the child she disrespects turns out to be the son of one of the world's most powerful billionaires? This isn't just a story about a slap. It's a story about power, prejudice, and the instant karma that shook an entire airline to its core. What started as a simple flight turned into an international scandal, and you won't believe how it all unfolded. It was supposed to be a smooth, uneventful first-class flight from New York to London. The skies were calm, the passengers relaxed, and the cabin crew operated like clockwork. But by the time the plane touched down, one moment of arrogance had cost an entire airline crew their jobs, and the world was about to learn what happens when you underestimate a black billionaire and his son. The boy was no older than 9. Smartly dressed in a designer sweatshirt, sneakers worth more than most people's rent, and a confidence that came not from arrogance, but from knowing he was loved. He sat quietly in seat 1A, flipping through a children's science book and minding his own business. He wasn't loud, he wasn't disruptive, he simply asked for a glass of water. The stewardess, mid-30s, sharp cheekbones, and an even sharper tongue, glanced at the boy with visible annoyance. She rolled her eyes, muttering something under her breath about kids flying first class these days. Then she walked away. 10 minutes passed. No water. The boy, politely, pressed the service button again. This time, the stewardess didn't hide her irritation. She marched up to him, stood over him, and snapped, "I told you to wait. You don't get to act like a prince just because your daddy has money." The boy blinked, confused, and just barely whispered, "I was just thirsty." And then it happened. With a flick of her wrist and a scowl on her face, she slapped him. Right there in front of the other first-class passengers. The sound echoed through the cabin. A collective gasp filled the air. The boy looked stunned. Not from the pain, but from the humiliation. Tears welled up in his eyes, but he didn't cry. He didn't scream. He just quietly picked up the phone from his seat's armrest and made a call. "Hi, Dad," he said, voice trembling but composed. "She hit me." Within 15 minutes, the flight crew received a call from the ground team. They were instructed to stay calm, follow protocol, and make no further contact with the boy. The head steward, clearly confused and nervous, tried to approach the child to apologize for the misunderstanding. But it was too late. Word had already traveled farther and faster than the plane itself. What the stewardess didn't know, what none of them knew, was that the boy's father wasn't just rich. He wasn't just a billionaire. He was one of the most powerful tech moguls in the world. A man whose company had investments in aviation, technology, and global communications. A man who could buy the entire airline twice over and still have enough left to fund 3 startups and a satellite. The pilot, sensing something big had just exploded behind the scenes, stayed focused on the route. But tension filled the cabin like storm clouds. The passengers whispered, some of them secretly filming, others already posting on social media about what they had just witnessed. The hashtags were forming before the plane even began to descend. By the time the aircraft landed at Heathrow, a black car was already waiting at the gate, not just for the boy, but for the full incident report. Lawyers were on standby. A public relations team from the airline had been dispatched. But nothing could prepare them for what happened next. Within 2 hours of landing, the stewardess and every crew member associated with the flight were permanently terminated. No severance, no appeals. A full investigation launched immediately and leaked to the press within 24 hours. The footage of the slap, caught by a nearby passenger, had gone viral. Over 10 million views in a single day. Celebrities tweeted about it, activists demanded justice, and the airline stock, it dropped 6% overnight. The billionaire didn't hold a press conference. He didn't rant online. He didn't need to. His silence was louder than any statement. He simply let the consequences speak for themselves. But here's the part that stunned the public the most. The boy, yes, the same one who had been slapped, later asked his father not to press criminal charges. When asked why, he said, "Firing her is enough. She needs time to think about why she saw me as less than human." The humility, the grace, from a child who had every right to seek revenge. In a world where power often silences the weak, this story flipped the script. It reminded us that the way we treat others, especially when we think no one's watching, can come back stronger than we ever imagined. And for that stewardess, one slap ended everything she'd spent years building. All because she forgot one simple truth. You never know who someone really is until it's too late. One slap, one phone call, one lesson the world won't forget. In a moment of anger, a stewardess revealed her true colors and paid the ultimate price. But the most powerful moment wasn't the billionaire's silence. It was his son's grace. Because sometimes the real strength isn't in revenge. It's in choosing to rise above it. What would you have done?